1980, Barry Gibb of the Bee Gees and superstar Barbra Streisand came together to create one of the biggest pop albums of the decade, Guilty. It sold more than 12 million copies worldwide and became Streisand's best-selling album ever. But behind those smooth melodies and romantic lyrics was a storm of creative tension. In 2025, at the age of 79, Barry finally admitted what really happened in the studio. He said that while recording Guilty, the two of them fought constantly. Streisand wanted control over her sound and image, while Barry had his own strong vision for the music. They clashed on lyrics, tone, and even the meaning of songs. At one point, she told him he didn't understand women. Barry, frustrated and proud, told her to take it or leave it. The arguments got so heated that Streisand almost walked out 3 times. Despite the chaos, their chemistry was undeniable. The result was Guilty, an album full of emotion and power that still sounds timeless today. But as Barry revealed years later, the memory of those arguments never left him. He said it was one of the most creative but also most painful periods of his life. The fights led to great music, but they also left behind a sense of unfinished business, something that would haunt him for decades. Barry Allen Crompton Gibb was born on September 1, 1946, on the Isle of Man, a small island between England and Ireland. His family lived in poverty. His father, Hugh, was a drummer who often struggled to find steady work, and his mother, Barbara, had given up her singing career to care for their children. They lived in cramped rooms above a shop and often had to share space with other families. Life was hard after World War II, food was scarce, and jobs were uncertain. When Barry was only 18 months old, tragedy almost struck. He accidentally pulled a boiling pot of tea onto himself, suffering severe burns over much of his body. Doctors said he might not survive, but Barry fought through months of pain and eventually recovered, though the scars remained forever. His family moved often, looking for work and stability. In 1955, they finally settled in Manchester, England. Barry shared a small room with his twin brothers, Robin and Maurice, and life was still tough. The family often had to sell stale bread or do small jobs just to get by. But even in those hard days, music filled their tiny home. The boys would sing together at night, dreaming of a better life. When they moved to Australia in 1958, those dreams started to grow. With nothing but a few suitcases and their voices, they began to perform anywhere people would listen, even at local speedways. The audiences threw coins onto the dirt as payment, but those coins helped keep the family alive. In Australia, Barry's love for music deepened. At 13, he bought a cheap guitar from a store called Woolworth's and began writing songs. Even though he didn't know how to tune the guitar properly, he created his own unique sound. Along with his brothers, he formed a small band that would soon become known as the Bee Gees. The name wasn't originally from brothers Gibb. It actually came from 2 men who helped them early on, Bill Gates and Bill Good. They began performing at small shows and local events, slowly building a reputation. But life wasn't easy. They often faced rejection, poor pay, and harsh critics who accused them of copying other bands like the Beatles. Despite that, they kept going. In 1966, they released Spicks and Specks, which became a huge hit in Australia. Soon after, they left for England in hopes of international success. Their journey to fame was full of struggles, from being cheated by record labels to living out of vans when they couldn't afford rent. But when they finally signed with Robert Stigwood's management company in 1967, everything changed. Their song New York Mining Disaster 1941 fooled many radio DJs into thinking it was a Beatles track, and suddenly everyone was talking about them. Within a few short years, the Bee Gees became one of the biggest groups in the world. Barry, the oldest brother, was at the center of it all, writing, producing, and singing songs that would soon define a generation. Success brought fame, but it also brought pain. As the Bee Gees' popularity exploded in the 1970s, so did the pressures of fame. The brothers often argued about credit, money, and direction. Barry, the perfectionist, clashed with Robin, who wanted more creative control. Their manager, Stigwood, sometimes made decisions that favored one brother over another, leading to fights and even temporary breakups. Barry also began to struggle personally. He turned to alcohol and later drugs to cope with the stress of touring and recording. The fame that once seemed like a dream began to feel like a burden. His marriage to Maureen Bates fell apart under the weight of fame and infidelity rumors. Financial troubles, lawsuits, and tax battles followed. Then came heartbreak that changed everything. The death of his youngest brother, Andy Gibb, in 1988 at just 30 years old from heart failure caused by years of drug use. The loss shattered Barry. Later, he would also lose Maurice in 2003 and Robin in 2012. For Barry, it was like losing parts of himself each time. He said that after Robin's death, he could barely listen to their old songs without breaking down. Fame had made them legends, but it had also taken away the people he loved most. Through it all, Barry kept writing and performing, even as his health began to decline. He once said that music was the only thing keeping him alive. By 1980, Barry Gibb was already a global superstar, known for his songwriting genius and his high falsetto voice that helped define the disco era. When Barbra Streisand asked him to produce and co-write an album with her, it felt like the perfect collaboration. Two powerful voices from different worlds joining forces. But what sounded perfect on paper turned into one of the most challenging creative experiences of Barry's career. In the studio, Streisand was known for her perfectionism, and Barry was equally determined to keep his artistic vision intact. They clashed often. She didn't like some of the lyrics in Woman in Love, especially the line, "It's a right I defend," over and over again, calling it too bold. Barry stood his ground, insisting that it captured the strength of a woman in love. Their arguments were intense, sometimes lasting for hours. Barry later said that they both had fiery tempers and strong opinions, and that's what made the music so powerful. Despite the drama, Guilty became a masterpiece. It won a Grammy Award and produced hits like Woman in Love and Guilty, both of which topped charts around the world. For Streisand, it was her biggest pop success ever. For Barry, it proved his genius as a songwriter and producer beyond the Bee Gees. Yet, he later admitted that even though the album brought him fame and money, it left him emotionally exhausted. He said he never forgot those long nights of shouting, laughing, and creating something that would live forever. After the success of Guilty, Barry's life seemed perfect, but his personal struggles continued. He faced lawsuits, health problems, and tension with friends in the industry. In the mid-1980s, his collaboration with country singer Kenny Rogers ended badly after a financial dispute. Around the same time, Barry's marriage to Linda Gray nearly fell apart after reports of an affair. They separated for a short period, and tabloids published painful headlines. Barry later said those years were some of the hardest of his life. Yet it was Linda who helped him rebuild himself. She pushed him to get clean, focus on his health, and reconnect with his family. Over time, they healed their relationship and remained together for decades. When the Bee Gees were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997, Barry performed while suffering from severe arthritis, refusing to cancel the show. He said he didn't want to miss the moment, even if he had to sing through the pain. After his brother's deaths, Barry began to live more quietly. He donated millions to addiction recovery programs in memory of Andy Gibb and supported heart and cancer charities. In later interviews, he said that giving back was his way of making peace with the past. The man who had once been known for his glamorous life now found meaning in humility, kindness, and gratitude. As Barry entered his 70s, time began to take its toll. His famous falsetto, once bright and effortless, started to fade. By 2016, his voice had dropped nearly 2 octaves. His comeback album In the Now reached number 2 in the UK, but many noticed that his vocals had been digitally tuned. Barry later admitted that he had used technology to help his voice because his range wasn't what it used to be. Still, his passion for music never left him. In 2020, he released Greenfields, the Gibb Brothers Songbook, a collection of Bee Gees classics reimagined as duets with artists like Dolly Parton, Keith Urban, and Alison Krauss. Even though he was dealing with Lyme disease and chronic pain, Barry poured his heart into every song. The album reached number 1 in Australia and earned glowing reviews. That same year, a new documentary revealed his private struggles, the loss of his brothers, his health issues, and his moments of self-doubt. He said he often felt like a fraud, undeserving of his success. During his 2023 Kennedy Center honor, he tearfully told the audience that he still felt guilty for outliving everyone he loved. It was a rare, raw confession from a man who had always seemed strong. Yet, even in that vulnerability, fans saw what made Barry Gibb timeless: honesty, heart, and resilience. Even though Barry and Barbra had their disagreements in the studio, there was always a strong mutual respect between them. Both were perfectionists, strong personalities who cared deeply about their craft. Over time, their professional tension slowly turned into a deep friendship based on admiration. After the release of Guilty, Streisand often said that Barry had given her some of the best songs of her career. In one interview, she described him as a rare artist who could make music sound effortless. Even when it came from pain, Barry, in return, called her a force of nature, powerful, intelligent, and sometimes terrifying. They may not have been close friends who called each other every week, but they stayed connected through music and memories. In the early 2000s, when Barbra began planning Guilty Pleasures, she reached out to Barry personally. He was surprised but deeply touched. After so many years, she still wanted to work with him again. This time, things were calmer. They were older, wiser, and more patient. The recording sessions were warm and filled with laughter. In one behind-the-scenes video, Barry can be seen joking with her, saying, "See? We don't fight anymore. We just argue with smiles." Streisand replied with a grin, "That's because you finally learned I'm always right." The chemistry between them hadn't faded. It had matured. The album didn't reach the same commercial success as Guilty, but critics praised its elegance and emotion. For Barry, it was more than just a reunion. It was closure. He said working with her again helped him forgive himself for how harsh he had been during their younger years. "We were both under pressure back then," he explained. "But now, I can just be grateful that we made something beautiful together." Even as Barry reflected on his partnership with Streisand, his legacy as part of the Bee Gees remained unshakable. The band's music had shaped generations, from disco dancers of the 1970s to young musicians still discovering their sound in the 2020s. Songs like "Stayin' Alive," "Night Fever," and "How Deep Is Your Love" became cultural landmarks, not just hits, but emotional time capsules. When Barry performs them live, he often dedicates each one to his brothers. "I can't sing these songs without feeling them beside me," he once said. "They're still with me in every harmony." The Bee Gees' influence went beyond music charts. They redefined what it meant to be songwriters. Their ability to write for others, like Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, Dionne Warwick, and Barbra Streisand, showed their versatility. Few artists could move from disco to pop to country and still sound authentic. Modern stars like Bruno Mars, Harry Styles, and even The Weeknd have cited the Bee Gees as inspirations. Yet Barry remains humble about it. He says that every song was written from a real place, heartbreak, joy, or hope. He never saw himself as a legend, just a storyteller with a guitar. Even now at 79, he says that when he plays those old songs, he feels like the same boy from Manchester, strumming his guitar in a crowded flat and dreaming of the world beyond. In his late 70s, Barry Gibb seems like a man who has finally found peace. But getting there wasn't easy. For years, he battled depression and health problems. The deaths of his brothers left him with an emotional emptiness that no award could fill. He once said that success without them felt like applause in an empty room. His wife Linda became his anchor, the one person who kept him grounded. They spent much of their time at their home in Miami, surrounded by nature and memories. Barry found comfort in gardening, playing with his dogs, and spending time with his grandchildren. He also reconnected with his faith, saying that it helped him understand life and loss better. But Barry's biggest battle in recent years has been his health. In 2019, he was diagnosed with Lyme disease after years of mysterious pain and fatigue. The illness left him weak, with constant joint aches and muscle cramps. At one point, he thought he might never perform again. Doctors advised him to rest, but music kept calling him back. He described it as a need, not a choice. In interviews, he admitted that aging has been both a blessing and a curse. "You realize what matters most," he said, "but you also realize how fast time goes." Despite everything, Barry continues to record songs in his home studio. He calls it his escape room, where he can leave behind the noise of fame and simply create. Even if he never performs